Good morning. Welcome to Marketing Over Coffee. I'm John Wall.
I'm Christopher Penn.
And we are back here. It's been a busy November, a lot of stuff going on for Q4, people trying to close stuff down, and I think the Roadshow tour coming to an end finally. How's stuff been going for you in this last scramble?
Good. My last speaking gig is tomorrow, and it's a local one, and then it is the end of the road tour, so I'm very, very happy about that. It's been way too many hotels and airports. It's really funny because I think like out of the last 10 weeks of travel, and it really has been about 10 weeks, maybe a third of the hotels have a thing in their room saying, we've just renovated. And I'm like, that's great. You spent $50 million to make your room look like every other hotel room I've stayed at.
Yeah, that's. It seems like they all now buy furniture and decorations from the same vendor. Somebody's making a boatload of money because there's really no variation at all in most of those places. It's funny to see some of those high-end places like, House of Blues and things like that do these greater, they go out of their way to make it a little bit more interesting, and I think it makes those places a lot more fun to stay in.
Oh yeah, totally. And that's the thing is the bigger chains, for whatever reason, they just can't do that.
Yeah, well, it's just all the Walmarts look the same too. That's the way that all works. All right, Panda and Penguin continuing to rock the world. You said you saw some stuff about real-time updating on that.
Yeah, so that was the conclusion from the folks over at Search Engine Land after looking at the most recent series of updates, basically saying, you know what, these updates, which previously were rolled out in batches and big chunks, have now effectively become real time. Google is adapting its algorithm in close to real time, and it's for SEO folks. That's a pretty big mind shift when you think about it, because now it means that you can get penalized and whacked anytime, and you can't count on a grace period. Like if something suddenly starts working for you, you cannot say, okay, well, it's going to be another 60 days before an algorithm update, so I can make some money in that time. It's now going to be, I don't know what's going to happen next. So it's a challenging time for the SEO world.
Yeah, it continues to get worse. But what do you think? So by shifting to a more agile approach like this, do you think that they're conceding that we've done the heavy lifting and everything now is just going to be polishing? Do you think there will be less earth-shattering, roof-jumping changes like there have been in the past?
I think they're going to actually continue to make big changes as their spam algorithms get better and better. I just think they basically want to get away from announcing them or for having to clarify them. They'll say, nope, just ongoing change in the algorithm, so you won't know. Okay, previously they would say it's going to be September 14th is when the next big update's coming out, and everyone's kind of going to scramble to kind of update webmaster tools and stuff. This is, I think, their way of saying, we're taking that part of the game away from you.
That's interesting too. And on top of that, I saw an interview with Matt Cutts earlier this week where he was talking about the fact that he may not come back from his latest not a vacation, but he's like on a sabbatical. He's away for the year. And he's saying that there's literally no business upside to having someone like me there as the magnet for when these monumental releases go. So between cuts and not having these monumental drop dates, they're literally going out of their way to, again, suck the humanity out of it and make it basically take all the transparency away from it.
Yep, they're taking that away, and at the end of the day, it really boils down to you just got to have stuff that people want. Right? That's the big lesson. There's no future-proofing anymore other than that.
Yeah, no other big things to leverage. Okay, so we glossed over the topical news. The biggest story, of course, in the past couple of weeks has been election times. I'm sure everybody's really disappointed that there's no more election commercials on television.
But the ad agencies are disappointed.
Yeah. I saw some stats on that. Some interesting, the fact that more than 80% of the money goes to TV, print, and radio. It's all a huge profit bonanza for those guys. And especially, it's so funny to see such a broad spectrum of media consumption, because you do still have radio and TV senior citizens. That's pretty much the way to get that demographic. And at the same time, I saw stuff last week talking about, I think New Yorker had an article about, millennials and even younger generation before that who have not owned TVs. They have been small screen people their entire lives, and going to college, they're not bringing TVs with them. So it's a huge divide across the board with that. Yeah, I don't know that, I mean, we rarely delve into politics just because we've proven that it's just a way to polarize the audience. But any lessons that you took away from this year or things that jumped out at you?
A couple things that jumped out to me. One I thought was really interesting was reading about, I forget which magazine it was in, but I was reading of the Republicans' data initiative. They actually finally got their stuff together and have built a machine that is comparable to the blue state digital machine that the Democrats have had in the last couple of election cycles. So that the data advantage, and it's kind of a lesson for all marketers, the data advantage can be nullified pretty quickly. If you hire in the talent, you can make you can get the same sets of tools, and then it's just a question of what you do with the data. And clearly, in this case, it seems to have worked in their advantage.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just the biggest surprise for me is just how the incumbents managed to continue to have, across both aisles, have a stranglehold on everything. I mean, everybody complains about gridlock and all the problems, yet the incumbents still hold on to seats. So I guess you get what you deserve, not what you what you
Yep.
want.
So I forget who said it, but I think it might have been Dennis Leary. We've got the best democracy money can buy.
Yeah, that is true. All right. Moving out of the minefield into I had an article about mobile AdSense, which could be huge, but unfortunately that was over on Vox, and the link was bad this morning, so I wasn't able to dig into it more. But obviously mobile AdSense, if it has any kinds of geo hooks, that's going to be huge. That's kind of again approaching the promised land of being able to fire ads based on people being in your neighborhood and that kind of stuff. So more on that next week, as long as I'm able to dig that out. You guys been doing any kind of mobile ad stuff or anything that's been interesting?
We've been deploying mobile ads on behalf of clients and stuff. We've not been earning money on the ads. We don't have a mobile app just yet that has the kind of volume we would need to make that happen. But yeah, it's the mobile thing. I mean, I know we had the folks from Mobile Commerce Revolution on the show recently. It is just so huge. It really, you can't overstate enough just how important mobile is to marketing. And if you are not putting mobile first in all your marketing strategy, the boat's over there and it's leaving.
Yeah, it's leaving the dock. No, that is totally true. In fact, I've got a link up in the show notes. Tom Webster's blog. They're offering if you get multiple copies of that, there's all kinds of stuff you can get as far as free barbecue or have them come and speak if you want to hit it. Yeah. That book is just excellent, talking about mobile as behavior as opposed to just the technology. There's a lot more work and experience design that needs to go into that, and that's great stuff. So check that out. We had PageRank retired too, which kind of a footnote. I think for the past 2 or 3 years, people have been saying that really. PageRank is just an alert that, oh my God, you're totally in the doghouse. If you're a 2, then you know that something is disastrous, but beyond that, it's really of no use. So, any tears lost for that?
No, because if you're not paying attention to your own web analytics, PageRank ain't going to help you, is what it boils down to. Oh, speaking of which, this is an audio special only. I noticed on the Google Analytics qualification exam is now free. So you can go out and get your official Google Analytics certification from Google, and they've taken the cost away. It used to be like $250 to take the exam. So for those folks who are listening in, now is a great time. It's going to take you about an hour and a half to take the exam, and you require an 80% passing rate to go get the official nod from the big G. But do it. It's free.
Yeah, no, and that's a huge, especially if you're someone looking to break into the space, that could really cut swath through the other resumes in the pile that you're up against. So.
Exactly. Just include that big that big certificate. Like, screw the resume. Here's my certificate.
Yeah, because I don't know. I have yet to see an entry-level position that doesn't say Google Analytics experience, and so no, that's a big win.
Yep.
How about you had some stuff you had mentioned B2B and B2C economic indicators. So looking forward to 2015. What's on your radar there?
So I'm a nerd, as to no one's surprise. I was looking at a bunch of the different economic indicators from the St. Louis Federal Reserve Bank, which if you have not checked out, it's called FRED from the St. Louis Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve Economic Data is the short name for it. And we look at a bunch of things to see what the state of the economy looks like. So like non-farm payroll, civilian unemployment rate, initial jobless claims, and all the numbers are going in the right direction. Even disposable income for the consumer is going in the right direction. People are having a little bit more this year than they have had in years past. We're almost back to 2012, which was a pretty good year for the consumer. So if you're on the B2C side of things, 2015 is shaping up to be a pretty decent year as long as we can continue the declines in unemployment and keep that personal income rising. Things look good. Now, on the B2B side of the house, you probably should pick up a copy of B2B Marketing Confessions because you're going to need it in this coming year. The producer price index has been flat basically since 2012-ish or so, which is what companies are spending to make stuff, which is not a great indicator. Baltic Dry Index, which is the price of containers on container ships, has been on the decline, flattened on the decline. People are not shipping stuff. So partially a reaction of bringing onshoring, but there's some of that too. And then the last major economic indicator is the VIX. The Chicago Board of Options Exchange Volatility Index, and it's been on the decline too. The Federal Reserve just said, no more free money, as they finally turned off their quantitative easing program. So I would expect to see money for startups kind of start to dry up, which is good because some of the things are getting funded are just stupid. But the central message is B2B. The pie is not growing for B2B marketers. If anything, I think you'll probably be asked to tighten your belt a little bit in 2015. So to the extent that you can take money away from stuff that doesn't have clear ROI and move it into digital channels, into mobile channels, I think is probably going to be the best bet for your business.
Yeah, I can see that. There's been a little bit of belt tightening and people trying to hit year-end numbers. The buying bonanza of the last 2 years has kind of just been completely over the top, and that it's just due for a shakeout. I think there's a lot of companies that will, like you said, a lot of these startups that were funded that were brought the chefs in for lunch in San Francisco and that kind of stuff. Suddenly people realize it's 2 years and they don't have any customers, and the gravy train comes to an end with that. So
yeah. Speaking of that, on belt tightening, I saw Zoho, the small SMB CRM company, just announced a new package called Zoho CRM Plus there. So they're dipping their foot into the marketing automation waters, and it's going to get real uncomfortable for the marketing automation folks if their product is any good, because they're rolling out combined CRM and marketing automation for $50 a month per user.
Wow, that's an interesting move there. I wonder if they have something white label behind the scenes, or if they've built their own engine on top of that. That would be very interesting to see how that's put together. Because I don't know. There's just Tom Webster had that graph earlier this week showing email service providers, and it had 5,000 different vendors. The top 4 taking 85% of the market, and the remaining 30,000. 8 points.
Yep.
So yeah, there's a lot going on in that space, and I don't know. It is funny how there's such a range of tools too. Literally from garbage to awesome. You really have to dig in and see what works for you, and the price points are all over the place too. So yeah, that's not going to ease up anytime soon. There's a ton going on there.
Yeah, so I would say keep your eyes on it, though. The space is going to get real interesting and super competitive in the next year. I think a lot of consolidation stuff. I'm to be perfectly honest, I am surprised that Zoho has not been bought out. I really am, because their product is, for everyone except the enterprise, it's pretty good. I mean, it's good enough for, I would say, even 150, 200 person companies to get by with and stuff. It doesn't have all the flash bang of Salesforce, but it's kind of the 95-5 rule. 95% of the features you're going to use, are like 2 things that you use. Yeah,
now as you say that too, it just seems like such an obvious match would be them and Constant Contact.
Yeah. Or MailChimp.
Or MailChimp. Yeah, it almost, well, yeah, that's true. That could work. It's funny that, like, I look at Constant Contact and I think, well, those two are from the same era and they're almost rivals fighting for the same money. And then I think MailChimp is a generation up, maybe a half a generation up over Zoho, which isn't that far. So that could be another interesting mix. So yeah, we'll put them on the watch list for 2015. I'm going to predict right now that they will get bought up, or there'll be some kind of merger or acquisition around them in the next year. I think we can safely say that based on what's going on. I had a link to a Seth Godin article about Munchausen by proxy in the media. Just an interesting little comment about how basically the press needs to torture us to keep itself valuable, much the way there's a psychological syndrome where people make their family members sick so that they can take care of them. And rather grim, but unfortunately it's struck a chord as far as how the press does work when you look at things like the Ebola.
Oh yeah, Ebola. All of 2 victims in this country, and people panic like it was the apocalypse. I'm not just I'm not saying that it wasn't serious in West Africa where the problem actually is, but holy crap.
Yeah, well, the thing, it's just there are a lot of things that are a lot more dangerous and causing a lot more trouble that didn't get the hype. So, yeah, it's funny. This is like kind of because there was the news hype. Now there's this kind of wave too of especially Facebook and a few other online networks, giving you these pop-ups like, hey, contribute now and help us wipe this out, raising money. It's just funny to see people jump on.
Yeah, it's like it's not a problem. If you want to spend money on actually improving people's lives, figure out how to get people to stop buying bacon quadruple cheeseburgers and dying of heart attacks.
Yeah, well, it's hard to fight opt-in problems. That's when somebody willingly wants to go with the cheese-stuffed crust. It's hard to
yeah.
stop the impact of that on the rest of us. But
there was actually an interesting article, speaking of Facebook and its prompts, about whether it works in favor of a certain political party because the demographics of Facebook and social networks like that, even though they're just encouraging you to go vote, if they're encouraging you to go vote, they are talking to a slightly skewed portion of the population, which I thought was an interesting take.
Yeah, no, that is totally, if it's pushing to, because the user demographics skew young, and so that's commonly more demographic section, and that's just a section that doesn't vote. That's that younger group. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just very disconcerting to know that again the experimentation continues with what's going on over there. Because I saw a couple articles about pushing people to vote, and that will if you mention voting in your posts and you're totally going to run wild. I'll throw in another link too. There was another article this week about things to do. It was interesting. Number one was congratulations. If you're congratulating someone for something, that fights always to the top of people's feeds, and sharing a lot of pictures to make it look like as if it was a vacation or a trip or something, that drives things up to the top of the feed. So there's a lot of tricks too. But it's funny on the individual level, you've got all those tricks, whereas they're totally squeezing it from the other end, where brands now are getting 1/10 of their traffic. So it's the machine is still winding. Oh yeah, in fact, I should make a mention of our sister video cast, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, which we're actually not unrelated to. But Jerry Seinfeld had a post on Facebook to Mark Zuckerberg. He said, Mark, I'm not really familiar with Facebook. I'm new here, but you did drive 300,000 people to my show, so I think you're onto something with this Facebook thing. And obviously he is. But yeah, new season of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. If you haven't watched that, that's great for a laugh. Yeah, I know. Oh yeah, last joke one too. At Marketing Land, there was the FlowBron campaign. LeBron James doing Flow from Progressive, causing a little bit of a buzz, dressing in drag. But of course, it was done around Halloween, so a lot of controversy about that. But that's the big news as far as I am concerned here today. We're gearing up for Thanksgiving. How about rest of the road tour then? You basically you got your one last stop in Boston, and you're throwing in the towel for the year.
Yep, that's basically it. Wanted to give a quick shout out to Jay Baer's new project, Marketing Podcasts, which is a searchable directory. One thing that would be enormously helpful if you like Marketing Over Coffee, they pull all of their ratings and stuff from the iTunes API. So if you have a chance to throw a review to Marketing Over Coffee in the iTunes store, it will help us in the Marketing Podcast search engine.
That sounds good. Yeah, we may have some more stuff going on with those guys in the future, so we'll keep an eye on that. And I think, that'll do it for us for this week. And until next week, enjoy the coffee.
Enjoy the coffee.